Midnight on Earth podcast with your host, Jake Weaver. Engineered by Cedric Swan.
Hey everybody, we are back with another episode of Midnight on Earth. I'm your host, Jake Weaver, and we're here to bring you more knowledge, more light, and more love. Guess what we're talking about today, people? One of my favorite topics, Starseeds. We're going to take the deep dive into the Starseed consciousness with Jenny Zakrzewski of the Starseed Academy. She's here. We're going to talk to her. It's going to be an incredible episode. But first, I need you to do something for me. Follow me on Instagram at midnight_on_earth. That is the address. You can follow me there. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you go to get your podcasts, click that button that connects us so you know exactly what is going on. If you're a Starseed, you're an awakening Starseed, boom, you get the notification. Jenny's here. You know about it instantly. And of course, lastly, tell a friend. Tell someone that you know that loves these type of podcasts. You know what we're putting out, our frequency. You know what we're trying to do. There's so much love. You know who needs that. Bring them here. midnightonearth.com. Okay, so we're going to talk to Jenny in just a second, but as with all of our guests, we will read the bio. So here we go. Jenny Zakrzewski founded the Starseed Academy in January of 2019. It is her divine mission to support awakening souls just like you as we create the new Earth paradigm together. In her role as a quantum healer, she has created a powerful method of transformation to clear, deprogram, activate, expand, and upgrade your energy system. When you book a quantum session with Jenny, things change. As a powerful divine channeler, she brings through potent information from your soul, spirit guides, and counsels. A reading from her will initiate your next level, and she's here with us today to take us to the next level. Hello, Jenny.
Hello, Jake. Thank you so much for having me.
Wow, Starseeds. This is so huge. The Earth is changing so fast. We're moving towards the new Earth, and Starseeds and the galactic family play a huge role.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We come here with the awareness that we are more than just the soul. We are, we've had lifetimes upon lifetimes before this life, and we're going to continue to have lifetimes after that. And it really makes such a difference in your awakening versus being like still plugged in, still feeling like you're on autopilot. And then having that awakening, I feel like what an awakening really is just self-awareness. It's just self-awareness and remembering who you really are. And Starseeds come through with that awakening closer to the surface, so that they can have that awakening almost guaranteed and then lead others through it.
Because they were such a high frequency light being prior to that incarnation, prior to accepting the assignment to help the Earth family evolve, they were already evolved as an energy being, as like a spirit, a soul. That light was evolved. So coming here and manifesting here, they're like 95% there. We're like 95% there. And then it is a little bit of a process to kind of crack the matrix, but not as hard for the Starseeds. Is that correct?
So the matrix is literally built to keep you asleep. It's built
Absolutely.
That way. It's a program to do that. And so if you can awaken on a planet built to keep you asleep, you're good. I feel like you can awaken anywhere. It's such a powerful thing to be able to do. And I really feel like a lot of lifetimes that we have, even in other planets and other realms and dimensions, most of the time, the whole point is to remember who you really are. And when you get that, whatever life it is, that's when things really start.
Wow. So how does it start? And how did it start for you? When did you first connect with that Starseed consciousness? Like, what activated you?
So I think that a lot of starseeds that are listening will be able to really relate to this and resonate with this because I felt so open as a child. Like I felt so connected. I was having my clairs popping off, which clairaudience was a big one for me. And that's the ability to hear beyond the world that you're in and to be able to hear like other dimensions and your spirit guides and your angels. And for instance, I would go to bed at night and I would be able to hear like music playing that nobody else could hear, like heavenly music, or I could hear my guides cheering me on. I could hear it all in my mind's ear. And so a lot of my gifts were very open as a child. But then as you kind of like go through the programming of the 3D with the school systems, with religion, with all of these things that are built to make you feel like those things are bad or evil. I happened to grow up in a very religious, almost cult-like family. And again, a lot of starseeds choose really difficult childhoods in order to guarantee an awakening, right? So I chose this super difficult childhood with religious trauma and abuse from my parents. And it was such a dark time that I shut down. And then I didn't reopen my gifts until later in life. And so I've noticed that starseeds have a similar story where they felt really open as a kid. And then something happens around, 9, 10, 11, 12, maybe 13 in that age. And you kind of shut yourself down. And then it takes into your 20s or somewhere in there where all of a sudden you open up again. And for me, it took someone handing me the book, The Secret. I don't know if you remember The Secret.
Of course. Rhonda Byrne. Yes.
Yes, at the time, this was mind-blowing. Like at the time, it was brand new. I got handed The Secret, and I just had this crazy reaction to it. Like, wait a minute. If I am creating my own reality, then what the heck am I doing? And I had a complete purge of everything in my life. I left the religion, I left a marriage, I left all these things at a young age and started over with this feeling of I'm going to create the life I want for me. And that's when the gift started opening again.
Wow, that's huge. So that was a huge frequency shift for you. But then when did you connect with the galactic family? Like, when did you go there?
So I was, obsessively researching. You know how you go through a seeker phase in your awakening?
Of course,
like
yes.
A long seeker phase. I was really, really obsessively going down rabbit holes and just feeling so much resonance with starseeds, learning about the reptilians that are on Earth, learning about past lives. And for some reason, really researching NDEs, like near-death experiences. I don't know why, but I couldn't stop looking into NDEs. I was just like, again, rabbit hole after rabbit hole. What I didn't realize was that my soul was preparing me because I was about to have one. Whoa. And then I had a near-death experience. And that is when a lot shifted for me, where people could see it. It was on the outside now. I wasn't just a seeker anymore. I was actively pursuing a spiritual path. Before that, I was in the music industry. I had a near-death experience, and everything shifted away from that into me now wanting to write books and teach people and have a YouTube channel. And really, YouTube was the first thing that I did. And I just started talking before it was cute to say Starseed, like way before the trend, way before it was cute. And I got a lot of pushback and people calling me crazy. But I started talking about the things that I was experiencing. Like, I am communicating with my guides. They are sending me signs. I am having abductions. I am communicating with councils. Like, I'm hearing, I'm seeing, I'm feeling, I'm knowing all of the clairs coming online. And I just, from a very raw and authentic place, just started making these videos as I was going through it.
Wow. And that attracted people. Of course, you created that vibration. You started attracting people that were looking for that. How was the reaction as the videos went on?
The reaction was surprising. Like, I started, without meaning to, I created a community, and they just started like flocking in and sending their support and emailing, asking questions. And then all of a sudden I noticed that the emails started being like, well, if you can talk to your guides, could you talk to mine for me? Would you mind doing a reading for me? And so I was like, yeah, I can do that. And so then I started doing readings. And then I had people asking me, well, how did you learn to do that? Can you teach me how to do that? And then I was like, yes, I can. And then I created my signature course, Psychic Light, where I teach people how to channel in a clean and ethical way. So I created the clean and ethical method because I noticed there's a lot of ego channeling in the spiritual community.
There's a lot of ego in the spiritual community. Sorry to cut you off there, but there is a lot of ego just expressing itself in that bandwidth, strangely.
But there's a lot of ego channeling, which I think is really harmful, because if you're saying that you're receiving a message from Jesus or the Pleiadian Council, and then the message that you bring through is filled with fear frequency, separation, the opposite of oneness, then it's not pure. It's being filtered through by your ego. So then I created this method where we could set the ego to the side and really layer the clairs and experience very detailed and accurate readings. And I started teaching it, and it just went off. It just went off for me. And it was the beginning of my empire. Starseed Academy became so big for me after that.
Wow. Well, I do want to back you up a little bit, and it's probably a long story, but can you tell us a little bit or briefly about your near-death experience? Like, what happened there?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was really weird. So I was very sick with like pneumonia, like a lung infection. And I don't think I realized how sick I was. And I was so sick that I was like shaking at work. I was still in the 9 to 5 at that point. I was shaking and shaking. So I had to go home, and I went home, and I was like drinking this cough syrup with codeine to try to stop me from coughing so much. And I think maybe I overdid that. And I was also just extremely ill. So I fell asleep on the couch on my back, and laying on your back is like a very bad idea when you're like coughing so much and so much is coming up. And all of a sudden, I don't remember falling asleep. I just passed out on the couch. And then all of a sudden I was outside of my body, and I had floated up to the ceiling. And I remember like looking behind me and like feeling the ceiling and like feeling like something was pulling me into the corner of the room, and I couldn't like float down. And I could see that my body was down there, and I could see the room. And I was like, just very confused at first with, why is this happening? Why am I up here? I didn't intend to do this. And then I saw a light. It's very real what people say. There was actually a very big circular light that looked like a portal, like swirling energy. But if I looked at it, I could see that it led somewhere, like a tunnel of light.
Whoa.
And so I was looking at it, and the moment that I looked at it, like a tractor beam, it started pulling me in. But I wanted that because the moment that I looked at it, I wanted to go there. I was like, oh, I want to go there. Like no real thought other than like about, am I dying? None of that was going through my mind. I just saw it and knew I wanted it. And I started floating towards it. And then there were these silhouettes that looked like cookie cutter images, like as a kid, when you use the paper and you fold it all up and you cut out the people, and when you open it, they're all holding hands and they're all the exact same.
Yes.
I don't know what that's called, but like cut out people, like something that looked exactly like that, like 3 cut out people. All of a sudden we're standing in front of the tunnel of light, and the light was so bright that they just looked black, like a shadow, like a silhouette. And there was 3 of them, and they were all holding hands like that in that weird way. And then they just yelled one word. They just yelled, "No." And I felt like the whole room shook. And I remember being blasted backwards. And I felt so like,
wow,
like I had done something wrong. Like I was very confused. I remember being like, but why? Like, why can't I just... And they said, no. And it pushed me back. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I heard this noise, and it sounded like an animal dying, like a really, like a really weird animal noise. But it was my body making that noise. Whoa. And so as soon as I looked down, I heard that noise, and I looked down and I saw, and as soon as I remembered, oh yeah, and I saw my body and it's making these weird noises, the second I looked, I was back inside of it, like instantly back inside of it. Whoa. I got back into my body, and I felt like I had been hit by a truck. And I heard this loud voice in my room say, "Get up and go to bed." And I was like on my back on the couch, and I was like, I can't. And then they said so loud, "Get up now and go to bed. Jenny, get up." And I like put myself on the floor and I had to crawl to my bed. And then I collapsed on the bed, but face down this time. And then I woke up like something like 18 hours later, like a long, long time later of having no consciousness. And then I remember just being like, what was that? But I remembered every detail. Like I remembered so clearly what had happened. And then waking up feeling really terrible, but being in my body and being alive.
Wow, that's incredible. And I will just say very briefly, I had a friend who was a longtime sponsor of this podcast, Howard Hitt of Blue Cobra CBD. He, what I call graduated, he passed away recently, and I visited him just before he passed. He had a near-death experience, and he described it exactly the same way that you did. Perfectly, the tractor beam, the portal sword, everything.
Yeah, it's no coincidence that everybody that has these experiences sees a lot of the same things. And I mean, that alone has to tell you there's something after this, physical form. You're not just this one life.
Right.
The soul is who you really are. The soul is like a batteries in a doll. Like this physical avatar of Jenny, it's just a doll. My soul is the batteries that animate it. And that's the battery pack can go to any physical avatar and has many times. And so that really, I read a lot by Eckhart Tolle about identity and the ego and detaching from a lot of your identity. And that was like really important work for me too, after that near-death experience, to kind of detach a little bit, not in an unhealthy way, but detach from the fact that, this is all I think I am. I'm a female. I'm this, I look like this, I'm this, culture, I'm this age. And that kind of just left for a little while. And that really helped me with my awakening too. It really helped me move into the I am presence, or I am everything. I am an expression of God source.
Yes, and ultimately, we're living light beings. I mean, that's really what we are. Like you're saying, we're just inhabiting this meat suit, this biosuit to inhabit this dimension. It actually even has its own consciousness. So really, you're sharing the space. But ultimately, we are just these light beings. And when we awaken to that, when we really grasp that as a human species, that is going to be a huge indicator of ascension. That really is a big part of the ascension process.
I so agree. I think it's those two pieces. It's the book, The Secret, which gave me the LOA. Like I've noticed a lot of people's awakenings start with law of attraction. Like that's how they start understanding energy and frequency. And that's the beginning of something. And then starting to believe that you are more than just this body, that you have this eternal soul within. Those two things together pretty much guarantee an awakening, right?
Definitely. And then of course you take the deep dive into universal laws. The law of attraction is really kind of a sub-law to the law of vibration, because you can only attract what your vibrations in harmony with. And then there's so many others. And then when you really take the deep dive into universal law, that's also another, I guess you could say, matrix crack, because you're leaving the fake world with this information that's universal. It's part of the universe. It's not part of the human paradigm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like, I really think that a lot of, how a lot of people in the spiritual community will have different coined terms for all the same thing. It's like, well, manifestation and collapsing time and timeline hopping, it's all just frequency matching. It's all just matching yourself to the frequency of the desired outcome that you want. Like your highest timeline, how people talk about that. It's like, yes. Well, that's the version of you that's having the highest earth experience that they can possibly have. Keeping in mind, we all have soul contracts and karma. So, but regarding that, the highest earth experience that you can possibly have with all of that in mind, if you want to get to that, you have to frequency match to that version of yourself that already has that life. And when you start behaving like them, thinking like them, acting like them, living like them, then your reality on the outside transforms into that highest timeline. It starts within always.
Wow, that was huge. I just felt like a DNA upgrade after you said that. That was like, whoa, because when you match that time, like you're already there. There's infinite timelines. There's infinite versions of you. Every choice, every thought probably creates a new universe for everyone. That's how vast everything is. So you can jump to that place by, like you're saying, matching the frequency. That's huge.
Yeah, that's time travel. That's timeline hopping. It's all just done through frequency.
So tell me, though, what you feel like the starseed frequency is. Like, what is the starseed frequency and what is the starseed mission?
Good one. Okay, so two different questions there. So the starseed frequency is different for everybody, right? Because we all come from source. We're all coming from the same place. We are all God's source embodied. But the starseed aspect is having lifetimes outside of Earth. Really, that's all that it is. It's like, well, I've had a lifetime in the Pleiades, or I've had a lifetime in Andromeda, or I've had a mantis lifetime. The problem that people fall into is that they just pick one and then they hyperfixate on it. Oh, I'm Pleiadian. Or I'm this, I'm that. And it's like, but you're multidimensional. So you're leaving out 99% of your galactic culture by doing that. So remember that you've probably had hundreds, maybe thousands of lifetimes. So when people come to me and they say, what are my starseed origins? I say, well, I can uncover as many Akashic timelines as we can get through in our session today, but there's going to be even more than that. But let's ask your team, what are the ones that matter right now? What are the ones that are the closest to you? What are the ones that are helping your starseed mission? Which is another question that you brought up. And so the starseed mission is you come to Earth, remember who you are, first of all. And then I would say it's about discovering what your soul gifts are, because everybody has soul gifts that they carry with them here. Like you carry them in your very soul to this planet. So what are your soul gifts? Discover those and then master them. Master them so well that you feel like you can offer them as a service to others. So we discover our soul gifts, we master our soul gifts, we offer them in service to others. And that is how we create the New Earth Empire. You build a spiritual empire, you unplug from the 9 to 5, you're helping others, you're spreading this beautiful frequency, you're using your gifts in service. And that is, in my mind, the New Earth leader.
Wow, yes. And there's so many of us doing that. Really, I came up with a formula. Tell me what you think about this. Talent plus service equals purpose. Like people ask, what's my purpose in life? Well, you develop your talents, like you're saying, you figure that out, you make that your service, and boom, turns out that's your purpose.
Totally agree. The service aspect has to be in there, right? Especially for starseeds, we're here to be of service. Some people are here to be of service to humanity. Some are here to be of service to like the nature kingdom or the animal kingdom or Gaia in some way, or some are here for all of it. But you got to figure out what are your soul gifts, like you said, your talent, and then just start using it in service. It does not have to be perfect. It can be messy. It can be, not exactly quite right because you'll figure it out as you go.
Right.
But the sooner that you start, the more clarity you'll get and the faster things will evolve for you.
Yes, you fire the rocket, you make the choice, and you correct as you go. It's often said that the rockets that were sent to the moon were off course 90% of the time, but they were constantly recalculating and correcting the course. Don't hesitate. Don't wait to fire the rocket. Just do that.
Exactly. That's how I felt starting my YouTube channel. I was terrified, absolutely terrified. Didn't know who's going to want it. Because I know other people think, well, I don't have anything to share, or there's already lots of people talking about this. And what makes me special? Why should anybody care what I have to say? But people will care. It does matter. Your story matters. And as soon as you start experiencing a spiritual awakening, start talking about it, start sharing it with people. While you're in it, share it then. Don't wait for it to be over and expect for you to feel like you're ready. You're never going to feel ready. Just start.
And there's a ripple effect as well. When your frequency is shifting and changing, you're sharing with people that love you or at least can listen to you, then their frequency shifting. There's some energy transference that's happening, whether it's conscious or not, it's happening. And that's also a component to how we manifest this new earth. It's just all of us developing ourselves, changing our vibration, raising our vibration, and the frequency that we emit will then interface and influence that greater frequency that is humanity, because we're all one. And then we're changing. We're all changing because each one of us made the changes within ourselves.
Absolutely.
So how do people connect with the starseed consciousness? Like they're feeling this, they've had intuitions or synchronicities or situations in their life that made them feel that way, but they're in the beginning, they don't know how to really grasp it. What would you tell those people? What advice would you give them?
Absolutely. Like you can't do anything if you can't communicate with them. And so you need to learn how to communicate with higher dimensions, etheric beings, spiritual beings, angels, whatever it is that's on your spirit team. Essentially, you need to learn how to speak to your guides and hear them and see and feel and know what they are sending you. So to me, everything becomes so clear and activated on your path when you learn the clairs. So clairvoyance, clairaudience, so that's clear seeing, clear hearing, clairsentience is clear feeling, and claircognizance is clear knowing. If you activate your clairs, and I call it learning how to speak the language of the clairs. When you learn how to speak the language of the clairs, you can talk to anyone, anything. Like you can't channel without that, right? And so that's what I teach people to do inside of Psychic Light. It's like, okay, let me teach you how to hear spirit. Let me teach you how to have a telepathic conversation. Let me tell you how to quiet your own mind and your ego so that you can hear what's coming to you, because it's there, but our minds are so loud, we can't hear it underneath. And some people can naturally do it, but others need help. And usually you have one clair that you're leaning into. I really leaned into clairaudience just naturally. But for me, clairvoyance was a struggle for a while until I really figured out how to receive in that way. And so you're going to have a strong one, and then you're going to have ones where you need help. And getting someone that is, like a master of the clairs. And I've taught so many classes of students from all around the world to do this. It changes your life. And I know that sounds like, dramatic, but it's true. It literally changes your life. Imagine being able to communicate with your higher self, speak to your dragon guide, speak to your Pleiadian guide, speak to your council. What if you have your own council of light? Speak to the Seraphim and the Ascended Masters, the Galactic Federation of Light, if you'd like. Anyone. You need to know how to use your clairs to do that.
And I think the human experience with the clairs was stronger in the past. Those things that you're talking about, the various clairs, they were more naturally ingrained in the human experience. Like we were pre-developed, but as we industrialized, as things changes, all that has been suppressed. So now we have to work to get back to our natural state.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the cycle. It's called the precession cycle. So you can research the term precession cycle. And what it shows is that Gaia herself, as a planet, goes through dark ages, and then it comes back up to golden eras, and then it goes back down to dark ages. And it's this constant cycle that's happening. And that's because Gaia is a school, and we're here to learn. And so depending on what you need to learn is when you'll choose to come here. Do you need a descension story, or do you need an ascension story? And so she's always circling around golden era to dark ages, back to golden era, back to dark ages. And they've proven scientifically that this lasts roughly 24 to 26,000 years for her to do a cycle. And so now here we are in this Aquarian age, coming back up into a golden era. And we're just starting to come into that golden era again, where we are experiencing these kinds of psychic gifts, magic, disclosure, all the things that they had during Lemuria, all the things that they had during like Avalon, and all the different golden eras that we've had on Earth are coming back for us. But we're here to help lead humans into that, right? That's what
Yes.
the Starseeds are here to help lead humans into that, because they don't know what's going on. And so we can channel the information, we can show them the way, we can help them kind of like clear out all the heavy, dense energy so that they can rise, so that they can ascend. And they can't do that with all that trauma and childhood stuff. And we need to clear that away, help people ascend, activate their gifts, because we all go together, like no man left behind. I truly believe that we're all meant to ascend together because the whole planet is doing it. So it's for
Absolutely.
everyone. Ascension isn't for special people. It's for everybody.
Yes, and I definitely don't subscribe to the timeline split where some people will suffer this darker timeline while others will vibrate this other direction. I agree with you totally that we are one human family. We're all evolving together. My story is your story, is their story. And there's no light being left behind. There's no living being that is not going to go through that ascension process. Hindu teachings talk about this, how an ant, they look at ants as mini Indras, because that ant is going to go through reincarnations and cycles and then be that, so that is so true. And it could be, again, what we were talking about earlier, one of those ego expressions within the spiritual community, because we have this like almost like religious need to punish those that did wrong. It's not like that, because ultimately it's just an illusion on one layer. It's real, but it's also an illusion. And when we're over there, we understand that. But while we're here, it's tough for a lot of people to really grasp that, but that's really what's happening.
And I think, just like you said, it's a bit of an ego thing, because I think other people just want to feel special, and they want to there's this teaching about the 144,000 that really bothers me. And it's like, well, there's only 144,000 special ones. Well, I guarantee you any spiritual teacher that's saying that believes that they are one of the 144,000, or they wouldn't be teaching that. And that's just putting yourself on a pedestal, thinking that you are more special than others. And that is a trap. That is a spiritual trap for sure. The 144,000, I've deep dove into that rabbit hole. It is very symbolic, and it's in Revelations. It's a biblical term. And it's very symbolic. Right after they say there was 144,000, there was more than any man could number. They were just saying 144,000 as being like this huge number, because they followed that up with there was more than any man could number, but anyone turning to God would be saved. And I mean, that's old terms. Obviously, we don't think of it like that, but it just means that if anybody chooses this path, they can walk it.
Yes, and the saved is being awakened. That's true. The true esoteric meaning is leaving density, the alchemical process. You're saved because you're realizing you're an infinite light being. But yes, it's been difficult, and there's ego attached. And also the 144,000 aspect, I've taken a very deep dive into that as well. And what I determined my own thoughts, and tell me what you think about this, it's just a frequency. It's an energy. Like you said, it's infinite in number. I've had guests that have been starseed focused in the past, and I ask these guests, how many starseeds do you feel like are on the planet? And most of them say hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands. So it's not something to attach your ego to. It's a frequency. You can recognize it, you can integrate it, but ultimately all that energy should be focused in service. You recognize it, you're like, wow, what a frequency. You integrate it. Oh, I want to resonate higher, I'm going to integrate that. You don't attach your ego to it, you just serve, you do the work.
Absolutely. I love the idea of thinking of it as a frequency, the 144,000. I think that's a really beautiful way to think of it. And it just can't be taken literally, because there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of awakening souls now. We've had such huge, like, global waves of awakening since 2020. There's so many people going through this. So there's no way that that's a real number. It's definitely not. And, the other thing, just because we're on the topic of a bit of these spiritual traps or ego traps, the other thing that really is super important for people to look out for is if somebody is teaching that 5D is a place outside of yourself, like it's another planet that you have to journey to, or it's another, like it's just outside of yourself and you have to go there and your friends and family are going to be potentially left behind. That's also not it. 5D is a place within. It's a measurement of frequency. That is, what is 5D? It's 500 hertz and above. It just means you've returned back to love within, but it's a measurement of growth inside. It's not you going to another planet, and there's also no mothership that's going to come pick you up. I promise you. Like, that's just not it. But the beauty and the complexity of Earth is that you can be on a 5D timeline right beside someone like your mom who's on a 3D timeline. She's in her victim mentality. She thinks everything's happening to her. She's really struggling. And here you are on a 5D timeline, understanding it's all divinely orchestrated. You're using your gifts in service. You're seeing and having compassion for what she's experiencing. And you didn't leave her behind, but you are essentially on another timeline reality. And yet you share the same planet. So you didn't go anywhere, Right. And that person who is in that 3D timeline is a light being just like the 5D person and is on their own soul's journey, and they're going to get there as well in their own way. And that's their story. That was what they chose. like it's divinely timed when they will have their aha moment or their mini awakening or whatever it is. And maybe there are souls that have chosen not to. Maybe there needs to be a certain amount of souls, like we see in the older generations, maybe your grandparents or something, where they never fully have what we would term an awakening, but they hold something. They keep things stable for us. They help Gaia in some way. They do loving, kind acts. They have compassion. They take care of animals. Everybody has a little bit of that godlike compassion and kindness and love in them. And it's all worthy to me.
Yes, absolutely. And is this what you talk about as living in alignment with your oversoul? Can you tell me about that more?
Oh, that's a beautiful one. So I have created this I was going to show you, but it doesn't make sense because this is audio, but I have this document that's like the soul family tree. And so if we all come from source, a big bubble at the top, and then that consciousness filters down into a smaller bubble, which would be like the oversoul. And then that filters down, think of this like a funnel going down of your consciousness. So we go from the big bubble of God source down to the oversoul. Then we go down to a smaller oversoul, which holds all of our soul tribe, like all the people that you reincarnate with over and over, your friends and your family and your romantic partners and the people that make an impact. That's your soul tribe. And then below that is you, which is just that single individual focal point of consciousness coming through. But if you follow it back up, you are God at the top, and you're the oversoul, and you're the soul tribe, and you're you. And so when you have something like a Kundalini awakening, or what people call the I am awakening, it's that moment when you have this zooming out, this like where your perspective, that higher perspective, you pull back from the single focal point that you are, and you pull way back, sometimes all the way back to God, sometimes to the oversoul, and you experience yourself as that. And in those moments, it feels like you have all access to the answers of the universe. Like you could answer any question, and you look at your life and you realize that everything's exactly as the way that it's supposed to be. Like nothing is out of place, and all the little things that you were stressed or worried about are perfect. It's all working out. And I've read a lot because I had this happen to me spontaneously. And in that moment, you usually like bawl your eyes out, because it needs to be like, you can't hold all of that as a human being. So there needs to be some kind of a release. So there's a lot of crying, and then that very quickly turns into a lot of laughing. And so I've researched these Kundalini moments, or these I am moments that people have had, and they all report that same experience, like the crying and then the laughing. And the laughing is like, also Buddha said, once you reach enlightenment, the only thing to do is to have a good laugh, because you look at all the things that you've been worried about and it's so silly, but it's also so sweet that little human version of you is so worried about all of that. You just feel like it's like the feeling of a video game where you're the one holding the controller, but you're also the one in the screen. Like you're the avatar playing the game, but at the same time, can you also be the one holding the controller? That is like living in alignment with the oversoul. That is, can you be in two places at once? Because I can feel myself talking to you as the human, and I can also feel myself back here watching this all happen as like something higher. And it's like, it's just having access to consciousness in these multiple levels of your soul family tree, basically.
Wow. And it seems like that also is living in multidimensional awareness. Those places are, in a sense, a dimension because they hold information that maybe isn't accessible to the third dimensional mind until you expand outwards. So really, it's just like this other information there. And when you're utilizing all of those information points, then you're living in multidimensional awareness.
And there's so much guidance and navigation from that for your human self. Like you could zoom out and be like, oh, I'm so in the chaos of this decision. Let me zoom out and let me see from the oversoul perspective, what do I really need to do about this? Well, where is my heart wanting me? Like, your heart is your compass. Follow your heart. It's like, well, what direction does my heart want to go in? Okay, that's what I'm going to do. Instead of all being in the human, caught in the details, you need to pull back a lot of the time, zoom out.
Right. And get that awareness of consciousness, self, the divine, the shamanic viewpoint, really looking at it from a shamanic perspective. And Starseeds and the people that are in these places now living there, they've developed themselves in such a way that they are accessing all of those points all the time. Perhaps not living exactly as source, but it seems like those evolved beings, the galactics, have access to a lot of the information on those levels of awareness.
Yeah, like instant, as soon as they intend to connect, they can just throw their consciousness around the universe and get what they need and still be in that form and in that body. And I think that's where we're headed. I do think that that's where we're headed.
I believe so as well. I mean, it's part of the natural progression of the human experience. You were talking about the precession of the equinoxes earlier and the cycles like the Kali Yuga, as the Hindus describe it, but those cycles of golden ages and rebirth. Do you feel like it's spiraling upward? So where those cycles are happening, there still is an evolution and ascension story for the earth itself.
That's a great question. So when I've tuned into Gaia, like I truly believe that planets have a soul inside of them, the way that my body has a soul inside of it.
Absolutely.
I just believe that.
Yes.
And I also believe that about a lot of different celestial bodies. But for Gaia in particular, our Mother Earth, I have seen that the soul that started it all at the beginning is not the one that's in there now. It was like her grandmother and then her mother and then her. So there's different souls coming in to learn from these cycles that the earth goes through. And when that soul probably has gone through one of the precession cycles or maybe multiple ones and they feel like they've gotten everything that they can, they're allowed to leave in almost like a walk-in experience where one can walk in and one can walk out. And then but she called it her grandmother and then her mother and now it's her. And it was such a beautiful like lineage of Gaias that have been with Mother Earth. And so now we have this one that is like ascending with us, learning with us, such a powerful creator, healer. And so I know that these precession cycles, each time she goes through it, I do feel like she would get more and more expansive, intelligent, moving into her goddesshood in a way as she's doing that.
And that is also the human story as well. As we ascend, it could be we could reach a point where we finally integrated everything we needed to learn as a species, as the human consciousness. And perhaps we might not need to go through the dark ages again. Or if we do, maybe it's just a couple degrees below light.
Maybe, but there are new souls, being born, I feel like all of the time that maybe are fresh and haven't had any lifetimes yet. And so having a sturdy school like Gaia where they can learn about the shadows and learn about the ego and learn about selfishness, service to self versus service to others. That's a really safe place for people to learn that.
Yes, absolutely. And I do love your concept of the spirits of Gaia, still one spirit, but in individuation, evolving and perhaps moving on to a more advanced planet. And perhaps we'll interact with some of these evolved spirits that have left the planet. Whoa.
Yeah. And we get to evolve too. Like you don't have to come back to Earth if you've gotten it all. Like people, I don't believe that there is karma to work out, but I never believe that someone is forced into an incarnation because every time, so again, the take or leave it, this is what I truly believe.
Sure.
When you pass over, when you cross over and you die, if you cross over, you don't always, as we know, there are earthbound spirits where they choose not to cross over. But if you do cross over and you go into the light and you get to, go back to that, what people call heaven, I call the in-between. It's in between dimensions. There's no time. It's not a lifetime. It's in between. That's where you're looking at your soul contracts. You're watching your life review. You're doing the healing chambers. You're getting prepared. You will never be forced by anybody but yourself or judged by anybody but yourself in those places. So people, that are afraid of, if I cross over, I'll be judged. That's why they don't cross over, right? Mm-hmm. That's why we have earthbound spirits out of fear. It's not like that. You go, you watch your life review, and then you are the only one judging that. And you might judge yourself a little bit. You might be like, oh, I could have done better with that. Or, oh, I really wish I had been kind in that moment. Let me try again. And that's how we keep coming back and trying things over and over again. But it's never a punishment. It's never like you have to do Earth another 38 times because this or that. Like it isn't like that. It truly is just, it's a choice. Now there is a frequency factor. If your soul is not in the, a beautiful high angelic frequency because you just came out of a really bad World War II, say you just went through World War II on Earth and you cross over, you're not going to be in a great frequency. So you're not going to be able to, I want to have an angelic lifetime. Well, your soul isn't in an angelic frequency, right? You have to do that work. You have to do that shadow work. You have to let go of the density and the hard stuff and heal. And that's where some people might feel like, I have to go do Earth again because I need to clear this karma. I need to clear, maybe I was on one side of a war and now I need to go experience what it's like to be on the other side. Or maybe I took someone's son, in war by killing them. And now I need to go live a life as the mother that lost a son. You always are going to put yourself on the other side of the fence. I'm going to be the bad guy. Now I'm going to be the victim. Now I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to try being female or male or all of the different races, or try living in all of the different places available on Earth, or try being an animal. I mean, I don't know, like whatever it is. But to truly understand oneness and to truly clear that karma, you have to understand it from all possible facets. And that's where we see people having multiple Earth lifetimes in a row. It isn't forced. They're really trying to figure something out. They're really trying to clear something. They're really trying to move on in a sense of like lightening up their frequency so they can clear all of this and be free to try some other dimensions.
Yes, I think you're talking about old souls as well. It seems like what are called old souls are the people that are really just trying to hone their energy being as they travel through multiple lifetimes. And do you feel like most starseeds would be considered quote unquote old souls?
I do feel like starseeds are old souls. I do feel like earth angels tend to be a little bit of a younger soul. So I don't know if you've heard the term earth angel before.
I have, but please tell us again.
So it's like a soul that really prefers to have angelic lifetimes. When we separate from source and we individuate from source, that's already shocking. All of a sudden you're this individual little orb of light or soul, and you've got your own thoughts and you're developing your own personality. That's quite shocking, because before that, when you're just in the bath of golden light of source of bliss, that's, very different. So you become this individual. And so whenever people ask me, what was my very first lifetime? It's almost always an angelic lifetime, because you kind of make like a parallel move across. So it's not so traumatizing. Okay, here's an angelic lifetime. It's pretty gentle, but you're still going to experience things like identity or some polarity. It's still going to be a bit of a challenge. Spend as much time as you need there. And then when you're ready, you move down, right? And then you move down into maybe the 11th dimensions, just below angelic, maybe ascended master kind of stuff. And then maybe you move down to like an Arcturian, which is a very high frequency still, Arcturian, or maybe a mantis life or an Andromedan, and you slowly move your way down until you're ready to try something like Earth. Like it's a descension. That's the truth, is that when you leave God's source, you have to descend slowly if you want to have any chance of having an okay life on Earth, if you want to have any chance of like slowly descending your frequency so that you get used to it. And it's like a gentle thing. Wow. They even have like training in the Pleiades. They even have like a scientific training where the Pleiades is like usually the last stop before Earth for a lot of starseeds, because in the Pleiades, they have these training centers where you're in 5th or 6th dimensional frequency there, but they've built these holding tanks that are 3D. And they challenge you, like it's like training, it's like physical training, where you go into the 3D holding tank or this room to learn how to be in 3D while still trying to hold the 5D within. Right? If you're a 5th dimensional being and then you're put into this 3D reality room simulation, whatever it is that they've built, can you hold the 5D? Can you still hold that higher frequency being surrounded by that lower? That's how you train to come to Earth. So back to the Earth angels, they don't do that. They get really excited about Earth and they skip all this in between training and they just go boop down to Earth. Probably from the angelic realms. Maybe they make 1 or 2 stops, or maybe not at all. They come down to Earth and they always suffer. Like they struggle and struggle and struggle. They struggle with mental health. They struggle with physical health. They struggle with self-worth. They struggle with like everything breaks their heart. They see an animal being hurt. They see the tree. They see the nature. They can't. They're too big, compassionate hearts. It hurts too much. They didn't slowly prepare themselves for that. And so earth angels feel a little naive and a little bit like a bit of a younger soul to me. So beautiful. The biggest heart you'll ever see, always nurses and like healers and stuff like that. Big, big hearts. But because they didn't do that training, they tend to really suffer for it. They tend to really struggle for it. So they need a lot of help for sure.
Wow, that is so huge, because you think about the different personality types and people you interact with in these spiritual circles and friends and things like that. And that frequency, that person, because ultimately the earth angel is hyper compassionate. They felt the frequency of need. And they're like, like a laser beam, but not realizing, hey, wait a second, there's a process. Hold on a second. Wait. But also perhaps that's their story and they're supposed to learn something from that. But what you're saying, which is so huge, is that as we descend, and not in a negative way, but just kind of change our energy, our frequency to match three-dimensional reality, it takes what we would consider a very long time. Or you could say it takes a significant amount of work. So you think about your life and your time as the person that you are in this third dimension right now, in this physical body, and it took a lot of work for you to get there. So you should cherish every day, every moment, realize you're only going to be here for like 5 minutes, because when you're on your deathbed, time compresses. So you're going to be on your deathbed realizing, oh my God, it all went in 5 minutes. So you just have to do the work while you're here.
Absolutely. And it's like, look how hard you worked to be here.
Yes.
Don't squander it. What are you here to do? What's your mission? What's your purpose? Let's get on it. Don't waste that time.
Yes, it's like an Olympic trainer training for 25 years to be the master of this one specific sport. And then the Olympics happen and they're like, yeah, I'll do okay. But I really want to check out. It doesn't make sense. You trained for this. You chose this. This is your mission.
And that's why so many starseeds have memories of lifetimes in higher dimensions, because the descension, right? That makes so much sense. It's like, well, I remember being Pleiadian, or like an awakened starseed is somebody that remembers some of these lifetimes, right? I remember being angelic, or I remember having an Arcturian life, or this or that. I get people like that all the time. And I'm thinking like, the reason why you can remember that is because you came down here. So that was the descension down to here, to Earth. So you're going to remember the lifetimes on the way down. And now it's time to ascend. Right. And if you're on Gaia at this time, you are on an ascension path, because she's on an ascension path, and the planet takes everybody with her. Right. So if you're awakened and you're on planet Earth, you are on an ascension path, but you weren't always. Sometimes you were on a descension path to train, to prepare, to learn from your own shadows, to learn lessons. Like, all the deep lessons that you learned through the descension are so meaningful. And some people will go lower than Earth. Earth isn't the last stop for some people. They'll go into 2D, 1D, underworld, deep stuff. Because think about this, okay? You're on Earth. The shadow that you face is generally your own ego, right? Your shadows take a voice in your head, and your ego tries to talk you out of things and sometimes put you down. And before you do the work, egos are quite vicious. And I know that they're like a mechanism that's built to keep us safe, but it feels really difficult at first to harness and integrate your ego. So your ego is the voice of your shadows, right? But people that decide to go lower than Earth, like the masters that want a real challenge, and they go lower than Earth, they become their shadow. They become that dark entity or that shadow entity. They become their shadows to face themselves in that way and still try to have that awakening. Oh, wait, I remember who I am. Oh, let me ascend back up. And then maybe they come back to Earth and go up and up. And then they're on the upward loop of their soul journey, which is a circle, right? So think about that the next time you encounter, like a darker entity or an earthbound spirit or whatever it is. That could be a master soul allowing itself to express itself as this shadowy, scary or creepy being or whatever it is, because they're really trying to face that part of themselves, learn who they are. We all have light and shadow. Even God Source does. That's what oneness is. It's the light and the shadow together. Nothing is all love and light. And it's okay to come down into these lower realms and see that, face that, learn about yourself, and then ascend back up into the oneness again. So it's like oneness at the top, and then at the bottom, it's your shadowy kind of separate self.
Right. And you can learn from every step of the process. You can take that lowest density, which is so huge. I've never really heard anyone say it in that way. It was so perfect. But yes, you go down into 1D and you rise all the way back up from that. That's huge. And that's a lot of work. But it really makes it feel like this place, all of these dimensions are a classroom of some sort. And there's some other layer or dimension where you're choosing to enter that classroom. Where do you think that is? Would you describe that as 7D, 11D, source consciousness? Where are we when we're looking at all of reality and just see and understanding it as an illusion, and also making the choice to dive back in for a super difficult life? Where is that?
Yeah. So that has to be in a place outside of dimensions, because dimensions are for incarnations. Dimensions are for having lifetimes. That's when you're playing a character. But when are you just the pure soul? When are you a pure soul who's not playing a character? That is in the in-between or heaven. And that's when you're writing soul contracts, having life reviews, chilling out. Sometimes people go there and stay there for a long time. And maybe you could do work there. You could help souls that are newly crossed over. You could probably stay in there for as long as you want to. And it's outside of all dimension. And it is that place that you keep describing of like beautiful, pure light, where it's not about training and trying and hardness and school. It's just being. It's just being the bliss of the light and all of that. And then as soon as you make a soul contract up and then you're going into a dimension. Oh, I'm going to be an angel for this life. I'm going to go into a dimension, or I'm going to go be an alien, or I'm going to go be a human, or I'm going to go be an animal. That's all you playing a character. Right. Your truth is the pure soul. And you have a soul signature. Your own soul signature is like your very own special frequency and color and tone and sound. It's like the white core of source at the center. And then over top of that, like a jawbreaker, layers of color each lifetime that you've had, layers over it until it's this complex, deep, beautiful expression of who you are. And that's the individual that you are, your soul signature, unlike anyone else, completely your own. And that's how we create that, is lifetime.
Wow, that is so huge. So what about the children of today? Now, the children themselves, the humans of this planet, are already physically a different frequency. They're being exposed to different radiation. They're being exposed to a higher frequency, and I mean intensity, I should say in this case, of information. They're inundated with information. Their processor is amplified. Maybe they're double the processing power, triple the processing power of their previous parents and grandparents. But what is it about the children that is making them that way? And then also, are they then attracting more starseed frequencies because of that? Like, are more children starseeds?
So I really believe that as souls are choosing to come to Earth right now, they're looking at where Earth is at on her trajectory. Oh, she's ascending and she's coming into a golden era. Okay, I want to join in. And so the souls that are choosing to come here are the ones that are, holding a lot more light. I feel like they're holding a lot more light in their body. They might even have that crystalline blueprint already. And they are kind of like landing ready to run, like they're already ready to go. But the difference is also in how we parent them, because many of us, when we came through as starseeds, we were open, we were ready. If we had the right training or parentage to teach us, this is how you create your own reality. Imagine learning that as a kid. Like, whoa.
Yeah, I think I'd be in a way
where would
world.
We be right now? Like, imagine learning that. Imagine learning, oh, you have a group of spirit guides that love you. Here's how to connect with them. Here's how to talk to them. Here's how to protect yourself from nightmares and scary things at night. Kids go through, especially awakened kids. Awakened kids I work with a lot. I have an awakened kids mentorship, and awakened kids go through so much. They are these bright lights with no boundaries, and they can go through a lot of attacks or being, bothered by darker energies and stuff like that. Imagine being trained how to clear yourself, how to protect yourself, how to shield yourself. So I do think that, that the kids coming through are just receiving parents. A lot of them are receiving parents that know this stuff, which is really helpful. But I definitely, I don't know a percentage, but I feel like there's so many awakened children right now that are being encouraged to share their wisdom. Like you ask them a question that's quite adult, like quite mature, and they answer it with the most profound, like simplicity that cuts through all the programming, like these children that you see on TikTok and on social media channeling, information about how the universe works. It's just so beautiful.
Isn't it? That stuff blows me away, because that, I believe, is a new phenomenon within social media that allowed that to happen. There were never kid channelers that were accessible, that you could go visit online and be like absolutely blown away. There's definitely an ascension happening. And if you're a parent and you're hearing this, like, what advice would you give a parent to identify that type of frequency within their own children?
Oh gosh, there's so many ways. So, but for parents of what they can do, like there's a lot of signs that that you can identify, the child, if they're an awakened child or not. But so I don't know if you want me to talk about that.
Please.
Yeah. So I've got like quite a few signs here, and I feel like as adults, we will also see ourselves in these, because the thing is that we were these awakened kids at one point, right?
Yes.
So I have 7 signs that you have an awakened kid, but it might describe you as well. The first one is that they have digestive issues, food sensitivities, and or autoimmune disorders, because awakened kids are so pure and their frequency is really high, but it's delicate. And most food on earth is this heavier density, and they really struggle to integrate it. And also the same goes for like medicine here. It's quite heavy. It's quite chemical laden. So these children are going to have digestive issues, food sensitivities, and really struggle to digest. That's one of the main things for an awakened kid. And again, that was so me as a child. I was allergic to everything. I couldn't digest anything. Like it was so difficult. It's just a frequency disharmony between the food and then the child, right? And then the second sign is that they have vivid dreams of flying, other worlds, and conversations with people that feel really familiar. So it's normal for an awakened soul to astral travel at night, and especially kids. The second they fall asleep, it's like, whoop, they're right out of their body. Their soul goes on these missions to other realms, goes in to check in with their guides, get guidance or healing or whatever it is. And it feels so real to them because it is real. And so what you could do is you could ask your child about their dreams. What did you dream about last night? Did you have any dreams? And if they're dreaming about flying, about other worlds, visiting other worlds, or having like meetings or conversations with people, that's a very good chance that their soul's up to, doing this astral work at night. The third sign that you have an awakened kid is that they are beyond compassionate. They feel everything, and they naturally can put themselves into other people's shoes.
Empathy.
Yeah, very, very, very empathetic. So this goes for people, other children, animals, and even nature. Their heart breaks when people hurt each other or treat animals poorly or harm the environment. Like they will have a meltdown over something like that because they're just so sensitive to the frequency of pain or something feeling unfair. And then the fourth one is the sign is that they are natural born channelers, which is something that we were just talking about with these kids. If you ask them these spiritually or even emotionally mature questions, they answer with this profound simplicity, and they question things too. They question things that other people accept blindly, like the way things are done in school. Why is everything a competition? Why do we have to have, be graded? They're going to question things like school, family, jobs, the world, especially if something feels off or unfair to them. The fifth sign is that they believe there's a greater purpose to their life. That's especially a starseed little kid, that they feel like they're on Earth with a mission. So they talk about creating things, fixing things, inventing things, helping people, or even changing the world. And they see this new world on the horizon, and they're trying to figure out how they get there. What is their pathway to that? The sixth sign that you have an awakened kid is that they are noticeably overwhelmed or drained by large crowds and busy locations. They're highly sensitive empaths and they soak up energy like a sponge. So they can become overwhelmed if too many different energies are entering into their auric field. It can make them grumpy, exhausted, or even sick. And then the last sign is that they have night terrors or they are extremely afraid of the dark. And they also might be afraid or uncomfortable in certain places in your home. So awakened children, again, they're these pure, bright lights with no boundaries. It's common for them to be noticed or even harassed by earthbound spirits. They're most vulnerable when they go to sleep at night. So that's where it's really important for parents to ask them those kinds of questions. I think the best thing for you to do is to ask your children questions. What are you dreaming about? Do you ever have any invisible friends? Do you ever have any visitors at night? And if they're acting uncomfortable in a certain area, like they're afraid of a certain hallway or a certain room in the home, ask them why. What is it? And the key words would be they feel like they're being watched, or they feel like something is hovering over them, or you need to believe them, though, when they say things like that. And then again, that's where it's the parent's responsibility to clear it, clear your home, get up the sage, call on Archangel Michael, clear that house, and to help that child feel more comfortable. And I think that it's never too early to teach them how to shield themselves. Right? They can just teaching them how to picture white light coming down in through the top of their head, teaching them how to, using their palm chakras to send light into their heart, or to push things away from themselves, or to surround themselves with bubbles of light, clearing, shielding. All of that is so important for these really sensitive children.
Yes, absolutely. And you think about cultures like ancient Egypt and how magic and that type of training was integrated into daily life. It wasn't even seen as abnormal. It was just one of the many things of life. And those children were taught those things and were able to have a life where they were able to interface with a lot of different information that's been suppressed or just not accessible to today's children.
Yeah, I love being able to work with children that are going, their parents are going through an awakening. And then the next thing that happens is they look at their kids and they're like, wait a minute, I'm realizing that this spiritual awakening isn't just mine anymore. It becomes the whole family's, because once you bring the energy into your home, it affects everyone. And so then the kids start, having these gifts popping through. They're talking to spirit. They're telling you about their past lives, all these things. And that's when parents bring them to me. And I do these really, really beautiful mentorships where on Zoom, where the children, I teach them how to use their gifts. It's never too soon to start teaching them how to use their clares, learning how to hear spirit safely. I'm obviously all about protection for these kids, but learning how to communicate with spirit, speak to spirit, see visions, use their third eye, astral travel. It's just really powerful stuff. And they're so natural. They're so natural at it.
Right, because like we're saying, there's just a different frequency of human manifesting, though we're all together having this story. So what do you think we should be doing now as humans? We talked about developing ourselves and working on ourselves, but collectively, in your opinion, from your perspective, where do you think humanity should be focused right now?
I think you need to, personally, if you feel like you're resonating with this conversation and you're like, what do I do next? You need to discover what your gifts are, master those gifts, and start offering them in service. That is the key to your highest timeline. And the more people that do that, that's how we create New Earth. We unplug from the 9 to 5. We unplug from, believing that abundance has to come from some outward source. You are the source of your own abundance, always, right? You are the source of everything in your life. So I truly believe that it's an individual game. We can't look at the collective and say the collective needs to do this. We need to be the example and we need to do it first. So it's really about using your gifts in service. It's going to unlock your highest timeline, where all of the abundance and the freedom is, but also where that fulfillment is, where you're really doing your soul work and helping people.
Wow, that's huge, because when people listen to this, there's people all over the world. Some of them are advanced, but some of them are coming because this is new information. That's a great foundational step. And one thing I wanted to ask you about that we talked about earlier, and I've noticed this as well, because I've had a lot of guests on that have had Starseed interactions. They're working with galactics, channeling, things like that. 9.5 out of 10 had an extremely difficult childhood. And earlier you were talking about how, we chose that hardness and that difficulty to activate us. But what is it, I guess, about trauma that's necessary for activation?
So many of us that chose to have a really difficult childhood are kind of like the pioneers of the waves of volunteers. And I don't feel like children need to choose that anymore, or hopefully not many of them, because there's more awakened parents willing to have these children. So, but what we had to do was, through contrast, learn. So learn through contrast what we don't want. So if I grew up with like an abusive alcoholic father, and I also grew up with this unbelievable religious trauma that was very cult-like. And so as soon as I got some space from that, it was like I wanted to go in the opposite directions of all of that. I needed to move away from religion. I needed to move away from this controlling kind of like narcissistic, very 3D behavior. It's like learning through contrast. I feel like that trauma or that heaviness, it makes us hit rock bottom at a pretty early age. And then the only way up from there is up. Yeah. And so it's like most people that hit rock bottom, something like a light switch flips and you're like, okay, I'm going to fix this. I'm determined. But until you hit rock bottom, you're just, wishy-washy. Unfortunately, as a human, we like kind of need that extra push, or a lot of people do. And so I had that rock bottom early on, and all it did was make me a huge seeker. And then I started seeking, like I said, the law of attraction and all these NDEs and seeking all of this information. And that just blew everything wide open for me.
But you feel like now the children incarnating now, the Starseeds, don't have to choose that anymore, unless for whatever reason they need to. But because we're all ascending, the frequencies raising, maybe we don't need to have those type of lifetimes anymore.
I think less, but I don't think everybody, unfortunately. Like, I think less Starseeds would have to do that to have an awakening for sure, because now there's these awakened parents available, which there wasn't before. Yes. Well, not none, but not very many. But I still think that you're still going to see a lot of the same like patterns repeating, where awakened souls, even ones that are being born now, are going to talk about how it was really hard at the beginning for them. And it's just a very interesting template to almost guarantee an awakening.
Wow, absolutely. I mean, I do agree with you. It's just very difficult. But again, when you have that awareness of it being an illusion, then it kind of makes more sense of why you would choose that. It doesn't change the emotional aspect or how it affects your signature, as you were saying, but it still is difficult overall. Illusion or not, it's still difficult.
Well, it's definitely not an illusion if it's happening to you, right? Like, it feels so real. It is real, and it is a real interaction between you and other souls. But what it can create is massive compassion. Like for me, because I had so many people to forgive, I really learned about forgiveness and compassion at a really young age too. And we were talking before about being able to zoom out into that oversoul mentality. Well, I was able to zoom out so far when I was doing the shadow work as a young adult that I was able to see me and my father, who I guess I would have called like the bad guy, the label, the bad guy, right? Me and him writing up soul contracts where he was agreeing to play that role for me. And he didn't want to. And so that was like a crazy vision that I had when I was in that oversoul consciousness, where it's like, okay, so sometimes the bad guys are souls on our soul tribe that love us so much that they're willing to play the bad guy because they know that they can do it right for us and in a safe, in quotations, way where we can learn what we needed to learn or clear that karma or figure it out. And they don't always want to be that, but they agree sometimes, even though it's hard. And so that really just blew my heart wide open, because I was like, wait a minute, we're all just playing roles. We're all just playing characters right now. So hold on. What if the bad guys, what if we look at this at a collective society level and we look at the bad guys in the government and the pharmaceuticals and all of this, and we think, okay, but are these bad guys, in quotations, serving a higher purpose, like creating worldwide awakenings? Because I know that 2020 and all the corruption that happened of that year created one of the biggest mass awakenings that we've yet to see. And so what if like these bad guys in our personal lives and collectively on a huge humanity level, even though their acts are evil, and they are, you can't condone that. But what if it's the rock bottom that humanity needs? Or what if it's some kind of a wake-up call or a shift? Because again, in 2020, all it did was wake people up, because they were like, wait a minute, none of this makes any sense. Wait a minute, what's going on? Wait a minute, I can't trust anything. And it's an awakening, right? It's an awakening.
Yes, it was
when
huge.
you realize that. Yeah.
It was absolutely huge, and was, again, able to be, I think, integrated more quickly because of things like the internet. We were able to just connect with each other and share this collective awakening that we're having right now. But I want to know about the Starseed Academy, and tell me about your psychic light technology. I want to learn about this.
So I created a method of channeling called clean and ethical channeling, so that you can set aside the ego and truly bring through, like, you'll even surprise yourself. Like, you'll bring through such details and such accuracy. And I've taught so many people to do this, and it's a certified course. And so the clean and ethical channeling is like a way to bring information down from higher dimensions, higher realms, your own spirit guides, or for a client, this is how you could start like a business. And this is what many people do. And so this is huge. This is teaching people how to do it in an ethical way, in a non-ego way, and have it be clean, really clean channeling. So that's psychic light. And then I also have, like, one half of my business is all about teaching people to discover and master their gifts. So things like Weaver of Light, I teach people how to do really powerful energy healing. I know your last name is Weaver, so it's kind of interesting that it's called Weaver of Light. And I'm taking people beyond like Reiki, like where you just pour a bunch of light in, beyond the energy healing that we've known. And we go into very galactic technological things where we're doing crystalline DNA upgrades, soul retrievals. We're doing light language coding. We're doing Akashic healing. We're doing all of these really quantum healing methods. And so Weaver of Light is a certified course for the energy healer that's ready to move beyond things like Reiki. And Psychic Light is a certified channeling course for people that know that they're a bridge to higher realms, and they're ready to bring through that information. And maybe they've started, but they want more accuracy, more details, and they want to do it in this really powerful, clean way. So those are my two certified courses. And then I just started doing Starseed life coaching, which is like so incredible, because you can have like a typical 3D life coach, stuck on their static manual, and they're going to talk about like the events of your life, 10 hours on one event of your life. And they're always going to keep it at the human level. It's never going to be enough for a starseed, and no shame to therapy or life coaches, because it's amazing and it's changed lives. But I'm just saying that starseeds need to go deeper. Yes, we need to talk about human stuff like relationships and career and your health and all those things. But then we want to go deeper into, but what does this mean about my soul contracts? But how does this affect my Akashic timeline? But how does this, factor into my purpose for being on Earth? And it's so deep into the soulful stuff as well. And so I'm offering this Starseed life coaching because it's multidimensional. It's the soul and the human colliding. And it's so cool.
That's awesome. And then, of course, you can find this stuff on your website, which is www.starseedacademy.mykajabi, spelled MYKAJABI, starseedacademy.mykajabi.com. And you can go there and you can find all of that stuff out, right? It's all there.
Yeah, it's actually a lot easier to just come find me over on either Instagram or YouTube. So on Instagram, I'm Starseed Academy with the blue check. And then on YouTube, I'm Starseed Academy as well. And if you feel like this conversation is sparking something for you, please feel free to come DM me, come message me over on Instagram. I would be so open to, having a chat with you about how we can work together.
Oh, I want to do it. I'm blown away by you, by the way. I feel like this conversation has been the highest frequency. We were locked in. We've had such a great rapport. It's been amazing.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
I want to ask you one more thing before we go. Did you ever decide for yourself, or as we were saying earlier, kind of resonating with a certain lifetime, what type of starseed you were, what area of the universe your closest resonant being is from?
So I would have to say that my heart belongs to Orion. Like Orion, starseeds find me, they seek me out. I tend to kind of like generate that frequency of Orion. And that's a lot about integrating polarity and duality and learning about oneness. Because, Orion is a place that has a lot of similarities to Earth. They've gone through it. They've gone through so many galactic wars. They've gone through takeovers by, darker reptilian forces, a lot of what Earth is going through right now. And so for me, yes, I've had lifetime in Pleiades, Andromeda, Lyra, all these places. But for me, I just love Orion so much. It means so much to me. I'm on the Orion Council of Light. I love to channel them. My dog's name is Orion. Like, it's just through and through. It's who I am.
Wow. That's incredible. I didn't want to leave the conversation without figuring that part out. But of course, we're going to have you back. This has been so beautiful. Thank you so much for your time. This has been such a stellar, truly a stellar conversation.
Thank you, Jake.
Okay, well, please hold through the outro music. And everyone, oh my God, what an incredible conversation. Check out her Instagram, check out the website. She's got weekly energy reports. She does the psychic light training, all of the things she talked about, it's all there. Find her. I know so many of you are feeling this like I am. Go seek her out. You're a seeker, seek her out. And of course, we'll see you next week, right? Midnight on Earth.